All right. On to one of my choices for
Mhm.
best love songs. And I mean, I will admit, actually, I hadn't thought of this as a love song until fairly recently. Maybe because I finally watched the Beatles documentary on Disney Plus.
What'd you think?
Very long.
Very long. Yeah.
It felt like sort of an exercise in. It felt like a psychological case study in some ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it needed to be that long, but also it was just, I mean, at a certain point I'm like, oh my god, just go up on the roof and start singing the songs. Like that's like,
Yeah,
come on,
because we
just
all
get
knew it was
there.
gonna happen, and we were gonna be like, "Yeah, so worth it."
Yeah, I mean, I will say it did make me look at John and Paul a little differently. I mean, it did secure George as my favorite Beatle. I
He's my
will say
favorite too.
that,
He's
um,
absolutely my favorite as
which
well.
feels like an excellent segue because my first choice for best love song is
Mhm.
"Something" by the Beatles off the Abbey Road
Mm,
album, written and performed mostly by Mr. George Harrison,
mm,
considered by John Lennon to be the best song on the album, and
mm.
considered by Paul McCartney to be the best thing that George Harrison ever wrote.
I mean, strong recommendation for to listen to this song. I think
Yeah.
is how that goes. What do you love about it?
I think I think both. I love it for both the music and the lyrics. I mean, I feel like there's
Mhm,
something unique about the sort of musical phrase in between each verse, and the like sudden change on the bridge. I mean, if you're like music nerd, you all know what I'm
mhm,
talking about. I just remember the first time I ever. Not the first time I ever heard the song, but the first time I listened to it as an adult was in 2001. I was working at Court Theater in Chicago a couple months after 9/11. I was working backstage and I was doing presets for the show, and earlier that, it was the day that George Harrison died, and
mm,
the sound
mhm,
designer slash soundboard op for the show, while I was doing all my prep, was playing Abbey Road. And like I'm like, mopping up a floor and listening to the song "Something," and for the first time, like thinking about it in the context of George having just passed, and just really listening to the song in a different way. And I mean, I think this might be my favorite Beatles song, period.
I think there's a strong case for this being right up there at the top for anybody.
Yeah, George is just such, I mean, he's such a romantic. I think there's that. He's sort of
Yeah.
like, the sensitive Beatle. Um that's
Mhm.
weird, but I think that's what it means.
No, I
And
mean, I think you're totally right because especially from watching that documentary, you begin to see like, oh, John and Paul, like the reason they worked like that was because of a really healthy ego. Like
mhm.
they really did have those, and George absolutely has a softness to him, in contrast to the other guys.
And I think this song just captures sort of the unspoken mystery that often exists between two people who are in
Yeah.
love. I mean, both
Mhm.
again, both musically and lyrically. But I mean, it starts out, "Something in the way she moves attracts me like no other lover." It's something in the way. He can't put words to it. Like
Mhm.
it's this thing that exists. And then I don't know. I just love the bridge where like you're asking me, "Will my love grow?" I don't know. I don't know. Like it's not,
Yeah.
there's nothing definitive about it, and
Yeah.
yet it's just like it sort of captures the lack of anything tangible about love, and it's sweet, and I don't know,
Yeah.
it's just a great song, a great
Tell
love
me
song.
tell me about I don't want to leave her now. You know I believe and how? Is that the lyric as you're reading it?
Yeah,
I
that's the
don't
way
wanna
I'm
leave
reading
her
it.
now. You know I believe and how. What does that mean to you? I'm trying to figure out what the last one means. If
Well,
it means
wait,
if it means anything.
the last line, or the "I don't want to leave her now."
Well, I know I feel like I understand that one, but I think especially as it works together, I don't wanna leave her now. You know I believe and how.
I mean, isn't the "and how" kind of like that expression that I feel like people in the early 20th
And
century
how.
used, were just like, yeah, exactly, and how, but
You
somehow he
know I
manages
believe
to make it
and
sound not corny. I believe, like, there's this thing that I can't put my finger on, that I can't fully define. I just know I don't want to leave her. I
Mhm.
believe in this.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's been my interpretation of it.
Saying that I believe in love even if I don't know how it is supposed to feel.
Hmm.
I believe that he is saying yeah.
And it's short too. I mean,
Mhm.
I think the song knows when to end. Let's be real. You and I love Radiohead, but there are a couple songs where you're kind of like, let's take a red pen to that last minute, folks. Like,
Yeah. Tree fingers, we get it. We get it. It's moody. Does
See,
it need
but
to be 4.5 minutes long?
I actually like the extended version of Tree Fingers better than the album version.
It's
So
cool. Yeah, I
yeah, but
agree.
whatever.
I'll
But
listen
anyway,
to it.
we're not talking about that right now. Do you have any thoughts about this song?
This is top 5 for me. This is top 5 for me with Don't Let Me Down and Across the Universe. And
Well,
I don't know what the other two are, but this is definitely right up there in the top 5. The funny thing about this one is that it stands really well on its own. Like it doesn't need like it works within the context of the album and outside of the context of the album.
mhm.
It's like a poem in a way that some songwriters, I believe, write poetry. I believe they wrote a poem here.
Well, let's give it a listen.
Let's shall.